I joined the gym a few months ago, trying to rebuild myself after a messy breakup. I wasn't looking for anyone, just wanted to get stronger, feel better, stay focused. Every day was the same: weights, water, leave. No distractions. Until her. She wasn't like the other people there. She was in her mid-30s, graceful but sharp, confident in a quiet way. Never overdressed, but somehow always put together. The kind of woman who didn't need to try. First, I barely noticed her. Just another regular. But she always worked out near me, always at the same time. Eventually, our eyes met between sets. A nod turned into a smile. Then one day she spoke. "You're consistent," she said, wiping sweat from her brow. "That's rare." I laughed. Trying to be. That was it. Just a few words. But after that, it became a pattern. Small talk. Light teasing. Quick glances in the mirror when we thought the other wasn't looking. Her name was Alina. She'd been coming to the gym for years. Married, no kids. Worked part-time at a design firm. She spoke with an ease that made you want to listen, like everything she said mattered. There was no plan, no goal. Just kept happening. One day I helped her rack some weights. Another, she asked if I could spot her. Our workouts began overlapping more. She laughed at my jokes, complimented my form, talked about music and books while we caught our breath. She never mentioned her husband unless I asked. Even then, her answers were vague. "He's busy. We're just in different places, I guess." I told myself it was nothing. She was older, married, probably just bored. And I was just being friendly. But there was an energy there, something unspoken that buzzed in the space between us. It wasn't just me. I caught her watching me a few times. Not the way strangers look at you. It was something else. Familiar. Curious. She started coming a little earlier, leaving a little later. Our sessions blurred. One day I showed up and she was already stretching. She waited for me to finish my routine and then offered to grab a smoothie. It was casual, friendly. But when she brushed her fingers against my arm as we walked, I felt the electricity shoot straight up my spine. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it, her laugh, her scent, the way her eyes lingered a second too long. I told myself it was harmless, just a gym friendship. But I knew better. There was something building between us. Something fragile, dangerous, and thrilling. The line was still there, but it was thin now. Almost invisible. I had no idea what she really wanted. And maybe I didn't care. All I knew was that I kept showing up, hoping she'd be there. And every time she was, that line got harder to see. She texted me for the first time on a Thursday night. Just a simple "you pushed hard today." Impressive. I stared at it for a while before replying. "You weren't too bad yourself." After that, it didn't stop. Every day a new message. Sometimes about the gym, sometimes not. It didn't feel innocent anymore. I didn't stop it. We started meeting outside the gym. Coffee once turned into dinner. Always under the excuse of convenience. "I was nearby," she'd say. Or, "just needed a break from the house." She talked more about her marriage now. Her husband was cold, distracted, more like a roommate than a partner. She said they hadn't been intimate in over a year. I nodded, listening, trying not to let my thoughts get ahead of me. I wasn't proud of the way I started looking forward to her complaints. Every story made me feel like I was the better option. Like I could offer something he didn't. It was subtle, but it was there. Shift. We weren't pretending anymore. The way she looked at me said everything. And I didn't back away. One evening after a late session, it happened. We sat in her car talking about nothing, but the tension was sharp. She leaned over to hug me goodbye, and it didn't stop at a hug. Her lips met mine like it was inevitable. Like we'd both been waiting for the permission to act on what we'd been thinking. I didn't pull away. What followed was a blur of heat and poor decisions. We ended up at her place. I didn't ask about him. She didn't mention him. In that moment, it felt like we were the only two people in the world who understood each other. It wasn't just lust. Felt emotional. Real. That made it worse. The next morning I expected regret. Guilt. Maybe even a goodbye. But instead she texted me like nothing had changed. Same time tomorrow. That's how it began. Routine. We worked out, acted normal in public, and then found moments to sneak away. Hotel rooms. Empty afternoons. Always careful, always quiet. But it wasn't sustainable. I told myself it was temporary. That she was going to leave him. She hinted at it, never promised. And I didn't push. I didn't want to think about the future. I just wanted more. More of her time, her touch, her attention. I told myself I wasn't responsible. That it was her choice. But the truth was, I stopped caring about the line a long time ago. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about how she made me feel, wanted, seen, important. I didn't feel like a kid in her presence. Felt like a man. She made me forget everything else. That's why I didn't stop. Even when I knew I should've. Even when I knew we were both way too far in. I started waking up with a pit in my stomach. What once felt exciting now felt like a risk I couldn't control. She was texting more often. Not just about workouts or meetups, but random things, memes, articles, pictures of her breakfast. I was part of her daily life now. In a way I hadn't asked to be. It stopped being thrilling and started feeling heavy. She told me her husband was growing suspicious. Said he asked her why she'd been glowing lately. She laughed when she told me that, but I didn't. That wasn't a joke to me. I started wondering what would happen if he found out. What he'd do. What I'd do. She acted like it didn't matter. Like we were untouchable. But we weren't. One night, she got upset when I didn't respond to her messages fast enough. Told me I was acting distant. Said I was pulling away. I didn't deny it. It was. Things had shifted. I wasn't sleeping well. I felt like I was lying to everyone, even myself. My workouts started slipping. My energy dropped. I stopped going out with friends. Everything felt off. At the gym we tried to act normal, but it wasn't working. People noticed how close we were. A trainer raised an eyebrow. One of the regulars asked me if we were dating. I brushed it off, but the damage was done. Whispers started. And still she wanted more. More time. More attention. More of me. She told me she loved me. It wasn't dramatic. Just a quiet admission during a silent moment. I didn't know what to say. I didn't say it back. She noticed. The next few days she went cold. Not rude, just different. Still present, still there, but something had changed. I could tell she was scared I was slipping away. And she wasn't wrong. I was starting to question everything. What did I want from this? What was the end game? Was I supposed to wait around while she figured out her life? I tried to picture a future with her, but it didn't fit. I was young, still figuring out who I was. She had a whole life built already, one she wasn't willing to completely leave behind. I was just an escape. Dieter. I could feel myself turning into someone I didn't recognize. Jealous, anxious, paranoid. Watching over my shoulder. Overthinking everything. I started avoiding her messages. Told her I needed space. She didn't take it well. She asked if there was someone else. Said no. She asked if I regretted it. I didn't answer. That week I skipped the gym entirely. Needed to think. Needed to breathe. I didn't know if I missed her or the feeling of being wanted. I didn't know if I was in too deep or just scared to admit the truth. Either way, something had cracked. And I knew it couldn't go back to how it was. I went back to the gym after a week. She was there as expected. We didn't speak. She glanced at me once. Then looked away like I was a stranger. That silence said more than any text could. Things were done. Not officially, not with some dramatic goodbye, but done in that quiet, irreversible way things end when no one says what they really feel. I tried getting back into my routine. Focused on my sets, kept my head down. But everything felt off. The gym didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a place filled with memories I didn't want to revisit. Every corner reminded me of her. Of us. Of everything I tried not to think about. She stopped texting. I didn't reach out either. I kept expecting closure, some explanation, but none came. Maybe that was the closure. Realizing it was never built to last. We both knew it from the start, but we got lost in the feeling anyway. The rush, the validation, the thrill of something forbidden. I told myself I wasn't a bad person, that I didn't force anything, that she had a choice. But deep down I knew I played a role. I wanted her attention. I craved that feeling of being chosen, even if it wasn't right. I let it go too far because it fed something in me I didn't want to admit was there. Weeks passed. I heard someone mention she changed gyms. I wasn't surprised. Too many eyes, too many risks. And maybe it was easier to forget me that way. I thought I'd feel relieved, but all I felt was empty. Not because I missed her, but because I didn't recognize the version of myself who let it all happen. I started reflecting more about how easily people cross lines when emotions get involved. How a simple compliment or glance can spiral into something that changes lives. I never thought I'd be the other guy. Never imagined I'd be part of someone's betrayal. But here I was. A secret chapter in someone else's marriage. A story never meant to be told. She'll go back to her life. Maybe things will fix themselves, or maybe they won't. That's not my story to follow anymore. I've got my own to write. One that doesn't involve hiding in shadows or chasing feelings that come with consequences. I don't regret meeting her. But I regret not stopping sooner. I regret losing parts of myself trying to feel important in someone else's chaos. That experience taught me more about what I want, and what I won't tolerate again. People say temptation is a test. Failed mine. But now I know better. And knowing better means I don't repeat it. It means I look in the mirror without excuses. Without blaming anyone else. Just accepting the part one played and moving forward. Some stories don't need an ending. Just a lesson. And I've learned mine.